As some of you may have seen, I received my first subscription order from the Awesome Coffee Club. So it's been sitting for a few days. Wanted to make this video. I'm gonna make some cold brew coffee. So I have a scale, have a manual burr coffee grinder, and I have the first order of coffee, which is a 12-ounce package. Now the coffee cold brew coffee maker I have it's listed as a 2 quart coffee pot or coffee mason jar, and it basically makes about 1.5 liters of cold brew coffee after you take into account the coffee grinds that take up some of that volume. I'll be showing that coffee pot, and I'll be putting links in the description for the burr grinder, for the coffee, and for that cold brew coffee maker. Now the scale that I'm using right now, I have no idea where I received the scale. It's pretty old. As you can see, the screen's has gotten water in it. It's just a quick kitchen scale that I use. I have a more precise one, but this one just fit on the table or my desk better to film. So opened up the coffee. It smells good. I'm going to tear out the scale, and what I am looking for is about 6 ounces of coffee beans. So it would probably be about half this container. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 6 ounces, or which would be approximately 170 grams. I have this set to grams right now. This scale has a accuracy of 0.1 ounces, so that's going to be within 17 grams about. Then we got about 65 grams. Yeah, I apologize, the screen does not show up so well on the camera, and I am looking at this backwards, so it's taken me a little while. And I just realized that this may not fit in this container. I usually don't measure it out. I usually eyeball it when I make my cold brew coffee. So okay, so I have 115 grams here. I am going to put this into another mason jar temporarily and measure off the other 55 grams. Okay, so decided that I wouldn't be using a mason jar and would be using what I had originally intended to use, which was a Pyrex measuring cup. So as you can see that the display is a lot clearer. Ended up changing the batteries when I went to go down to get the measuring cup, and if you've seen my video on changing a calculator, it went a lot better than that. I did not have to solder anything this time, but it was just changed out to standard AA batteries. I'm not even sure what brand these are. I changed them out for door cells. Okay, so we're going to go over and tear this out, and just to double check, we're going to pour those original set of beans in there, and we have about 115, which is what we had before. So to recap, we want 170 grams or thereabouts. Okay, 175, 180. Let's take some out. And 175. We'll leave it at that. And hard to tell from this angle, but it is volume-wise about 2 cups of beans, which is actually what the directions on the Cold Brew system says. I no longer have the instructions, but a friend just bought the same one and had a conversation last night, and that is what they said, about a cup of beans per quart. So that is a lot of beans. It won't take up the 16 ounces of volume because there is a lot of airspace in here. And once we get to the end, we'll go ahead and measure it. So I'm just gonna carefully pour some beans in here, and that's about right. Go ahead, cover it, and just, I have this already set to the grind that I like to use for cold brew. Maybe in a different video I'll show how to change the settings, but it's pretty much you take this screw off, take the handle off, and you readjust the inside the gap with the burrs, and then you just go ahead and crank. And I am assuming that's not a very pleasant sound, so I am going to go through and grind up all these beans, and I will be back. Okay, finished grinding. Took about 25 minutes to grind. Normally when I do this, I will usually do it while relaxing, watching some TV, and may do it over the course of several hours. Now, I am actually surprised. I've never actually double checked the volume before and after grinding, but I have about 2 cups of ground coffee also. So I actually thought there would be more airspace. Now, if I was to grind this a little bit finer, it would probably take up a little less space. This does not mean that this is going to take up the same amount of volume once you add water, because there still is space for water to get in. Water will absorb into the beans, which is what you want, and then extract the flavor. So as I mentioned earlier about the grinder, this is a burr grinder. As you can see at the bottom, you can see that there's some light coming through. The grinds come out the bottom, and you want a gap. Now to change the, let's take off this rubber gasket, is you would unscrew this screw, which I have to admit, this grinder does, I don't know if I'm just not tightening it enough or what, but the screw tends to come off. And then you would adjust this little, let me get a better angle, this little piece right here. You take this off, turn this knob, and you can get finer or coarser grinds. Something I actually want to try is, I'm going to put in a later video, I may put a standard nut on here and put a torque driver, a torque wrench, and see how much torque it actually takes to spin this, and then maybe modify it with an electric motor. Now, some things to be concerned with if I do that, or if anyone else has something similar and want to do that, is that with anything where you're exerting a mechanical force that isn't by hand, you have less control over it. So doing so, you want to make sure that if the torque is too high, one, glass jar, and two, if you have this motor, unless you have some way of attaching it to the base, when it spins, the whole device will spin. But that's a later video. So next up, I'll get the jar for making cold brew. You can do this in a French press. Before I got this, I just put the grinds in a mason jar and then ran it through a filter, which took some time. I like this method. I'm gonna do it the way I normally do, but I'll discuss some things that have come up since getting this. So I'll be back in a few minutes once we're ready with that. Okay, so this is the jar I use to make my cold brew. It's made by Country Line Kitchen on Amazon, which, if I remember, I'll put the link in the description, and I may even put a card up. And as of right now, these aren't an affiliated links from Amazon. Do not have an Amazon affiliate account, but that might change in the future. Just a note for anyone else making YouTube videos: if you are putting links as cards, and that reminds me, I will not be putting that as a card right now, because in order to do a link, I need to be with the Amazon, the YouTube partnership program, which I do not. So if you feel so inclined, go ahead and subscribe to help me get to that point. But if you are a YouTuber that does put links, or even to other videos or anything in your videos, also put in the description, because certain devices, like if you're watching it on a tablet, they don't show up necessarily, and sometimes I don't want to click on the link when somebody says it. I want to finish watching their video, and at the end I may want that, or I may want to look at that, or that's the next video I want to look at. It's nice to have them in the description also. So inside you have this metal reusable filter that you can clean. It's dripping because I just rinsed it out. Still some residual coffee grinds from the last batch I made. Now, the way I make it, and the way I'm going to make it today, is that I pour the grinds into the, and make a mess because it's on camera, into the filter, and then I add water. And like I said, this isn't usually the jar I use to put the grinds in, and so I'm gonna make a mess. Um, but you can also put in the grinds into the jar itself and then put the filter in. And then after it's finished brewing, you can go ahead and pour it out, and then the grinds are in the jar, not in the filter. You take the filter out again, rinse it out, and then just rinse out the grinds out of the jar and reuse the jar, and your coffee will be in another thing. You could put it in a craft of some sort or another mason jar. But I'm gonna get off camera and do this just because doing this on camera is not effective, and I'll be right back. I've never measured this out before, and I've always just eyeballed it to fill up enough grinds to put in the filter. So as you can see here, I still have a little bit of the coffee grinds left, and this is a little more full than I'd like. I think it recommends to have it within an inch of the rim going down. I'm almost at the rim, and so I've been slowly pouring some water in, seeing if the beans will compress. And this is another place where it just takes time. Now, these grinds are probably more fine than I should be using. I probably need to open up that grinder up a little more and get it so it has a lot more space for the water to go through. So what I am going to do is continue to fill this up. I am going to assume you do not want to watch me fill up a jar with water, so I'm going to stop it. Now this is another spot where putting the coffee grinds into the jar itself and then filling it up with water and putting the filter in may be beneficial. Maybe in my next batch I will do that. Maybe when I get my next order from Awesome Coffee Club. Otherwise, I plan on going ahead and doing some other types of coffee. I may order. They have I think it's called a V60 pour over. The same site as the Awesome Coffee Club. I also have a French press and some other ways of making coffee. I personally enjoy cold brew coffee, and I enjoy it when it's not iced. I don't really I will drink room temperature coffee. I'll drink hot coffee. I don't really care for iced cold brew, and if you get it from most places, they put ice in it. So I'm gonna keep pouring some water here. I may try to put some more of the grinds in, but I doubt it, and I will be back in a few minutes. That took longer than I expected. As I mentioned earlier, that those coffee grinds were pretty fine, so it took a while for that water to seep through the filter. Right now I have a little over 2 liters or 2,000 milliliters in here with the filter. Go ahead and carefully remove this without hitting into my tripod. And as you can see, it's still pretty full. Normally I would want the water to be completely covering one all these grinds there, they're not really doing much. Two, this is an area where mold can grow. I have had that happen where I've left it unattended and have gotten mold growth. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this. What I traditionally do is they say to let it sit out unrefrigerated for 24 hours or refrigerated for 48 hours. I tend to have it go for 24 hours, test it, then put it in the refrigerator for up to 48 hours, and then I will remove the grinds. So I'm going to keep a closer eye on this, make sure no mold starts growing, and see how it is. And as you can see, there's a fly. That's why I put the cover back on. So I'm gonna just, hopefully this fly doesn't get into it. I'm gonna pull out this filter just quickly and see. So like I said, it's about probably like 2100 milliliters. I pull it out and it's just under the 1500 mark on my jar here. So I'm going to say probably 700 milliliters of grinds. So probably 1 to 2 with the volume of the grinds to the volume of water that's left. So I'm gonna let this, like I said, sit for at least 24 hours, maybe up to 72 hours if I put it in the refrigerator, and then I'll be right back with a continuation and a tasting, and I'll let you know how long it goes. Okay, so it's been about 41 hours at this point that this has been seeping. Had it seeping unrefrigerated for about 28 hours and about another 13 hours in the refrigerator, mainly because I wasn't ready to film. So go ahead and let's open this. Okay, and as you can see here, there are the grinds. A friend of mine described it as looking like velvet cake. I am assuming it's not going to taste like velvet cake, but I'm not going to test that. And you may be wondering why I have a measuring cup. I'm not planning on measuring anything, except that once I pull this out, I want to limit the amount of mess I make. You can see there, it looks very dark. It smells very good. So I'll cover this back up. And now, so get this out of the way. Now, just have a standard glass cup. With cold brew, you don't have to worry about pretty much any type of thermal shock. So you can put it into a plastic cup, you can put it into a untempered glass cup, just any vessel. You could put it into a thermos, you can put ice with it, but as I mentioned earlier, I prefer mine to be chilled but not iced. So go ahead and pour a glass. It doesn't look as dark, but looks like coffee. Gonna go ahead and drink this black. And it's a decent cup of coffee. It's actually, cold brew tends to make things smoother and less bitter. So if you don't normally drink black coffee, which if I drink hot coffee, I generally don't drink black. Try it black. Try it without any creamers or sweeteners, and see if you enjoy it. And then from there you can add any type of creamers you like, any milk, half and half, heavy cream, whipping cream, sweetened creamers, non-dairy creamers, from anything from almonds, oats, cashews, soy, and then the sweeteners of your choice: sugar, honey, maple syrup, artificial sweeteners. So that's about it. A couple things. When I was measuring stuff, I had mentioned the tolerance of the scale was 0.1 ounces, which I said was 17 grams, which was wrong. It's closer to like 2.8 grams, so let's just say 3 grams. And on that note, the extra coffee grinds I wasn't able to put in here, I did end up weighing them out before I put them away. It was about 15 grams. Again, give or take 3 grams. And don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm thinking I may want to try to play around with making extracts. So I may make a coffee extract, and I'll probably try to do that on camera and let you know how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm gonna have myself finish this glass, probably have another glass of the cold brew with my breakfast, and I will be probably releasing, my next video will probably be on the Raspberry Pi, trying to Raspberry Pi Pico, trying to get the C and C++ software development kit put together. And I do have it working on a Debian virtual machine, but I am trying to get it working on one of my Raspberry Pis that I actually have connected to the Pico currently. And then we'll be doing the soldering video to solder the headers on there, and whatever other content I have. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.